In this video, we are going to go over actions in buttons. So you may have noticed in the preview or the example animation that I made, I have a play button here, and it just simply makes it play. We're going to right now create a play button that shows up and can be used to help us troubleshoot our animation. Go back to our main production file. Let's go all the way back to the first frame. An important thing about using actions, they always go on the very top layer. That's just an industry standard. It helps when you're working with teams. It helps with troubleshooting. So we'll make a new layer and we'll call that layer actions. We'll make yet one more layer and we'll call that button or buttons. But since action goes on top, we'll drag the button layer below it. Let's go ahead and make our button. So we're going to start out just by drawing it and then we'll convert it to a button. So I want it to go right here on the very first frame, and I am going to go up to view and I'm going to turn on the grid to help me drawing a perfect rectangle. So I'll zoom in somewhere up here near the top, and then I will grab my pen tool and I'm just going to click here, click here, then here, then here. Oh, and it looks like I went off a little bit here, so let me, I'll just delete that, but to avoid that from happening, we'll go up to our snap options and we will snap to grid. We'll turn that on as well. And then if that gives you problems down the road where you feel like you're trying to draw something and it feels like it's snapping to something, just remember to go turn that off. We'll go here, we'll go here, and then we will take the paint bucket and we'll fill that in, grab the whole thing, and we'll go to properties. We'll get rid of the stroke, change the fill. I'll just make that a medium gray color. Okay, so now it's a shape just like anything else. And again, as a reminder, you should always be checking or at least aware of things like, what did I just do? Click on it, go to properties, and you can see that it is a shape. To convert this to a button, it's just like making any other symbol. You select it, you hit F8, and the main thing is you change the type to a button. And let's just name this arrow. I'll go underscore BTN so I know right away in the library that that's a button. And we'll keep the registration in the center and we'll click OK. Now I'm going to double click on the hand tool so you can see that's way up there. I'm going to command minus once. I'm going to go to view and I'm going to turn off the grid, and that looks just a little bit on the small side, so I'll zoom in around this area. I'll grab this and we'll move it a little bit, hold down the shift key. You see now it's snapping to the grid, so that's bothering me now. So I'll go up to view, I'll go to snapping, and I will turn off snap to grid. And now I should have a little more control over making it somewhere in between. And of course, yeah, I'm still having some problems with it snapping. I could go up and I could turn off more snapping, but I can also look over in the properties and see that it's going from basically a width and a height of 20 to 36, and if I want something in between, I will just pick exactly what size that is that I want. Make sure that this is locked so that when it changes one, it changes the other. And there we go. Okay, so now that's a button, and one of the ways, or one of the properties that a button has is in preview mode, when you put the cursor over it, it changes to the finger. So it automatically writes that interactivity in for you. But we need to do a couple more things. So we're going to go into the library. We'll go into that button in isolation mode by double-clicking here. And you can see the timeline for a button exists, but it's quite a bit different than what you're used to. It just has 4 different states to it. You have the up state, which is what the button looks like, the over state, which is what it will look like when the mouse rolls over it, the down state, what it looks like when you click the mouse, and you can have a different size hit state than the button. So here's what I typically do, is I'll just click on the first frame and F6, F6, F6. Now, if I wanted to change the hit size of the button, like for example, make it a little bit bigger than what we see here, then I could just simply take out, and it doesn't matter what color this is, how you draw this, whatever shows up in here, that is your hit state. So in other words, as soon as the mouse gets over whatever shape or size you draw in here, it will change to the finger. Okay, the only thing I really want to change here by much is the overstate. And that is very helpful in just letting a person know that they've clicked on, or they're about to click on the button that you made. So what I'll do with that selected is I'll go into the properties and I'll just change the fill color so that it's a little bit darker than regular. So we have the up state is a light gray, the overstate is a little bit darker, the down state when we click on it will be a little bit lighter again, and just for example purposes we made the hit state a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and command return and preview this now. And so what you should see is that when I get even just close to it, I get the finger and the button would work right now. Also, because I've made that hit state bigger, as soon as I get near the button, it changes to that color. And then when I click on it, it should change back to the lighter gray. I will click here, bring us to the main timeline. Now let's talk about how we can make this button actually do something. So I'm going to give you just a quick overview on actions. Basically, the program has 2 types of actions that you can write for it. If you were to set up your document for web design, then the actions you would write would be pure JavaScript. But in this case, when we set up the document, we chose ActionScript 3.0. ActionScript 3.0 is popular among people that want to do character animations and have a little bit of interactivity with it, or pass things on to a team if they're making game development using Adobe Animate. And just so you can see a basic introductory to actions, we're going to first make this button so that it is a jump button to help us troubleshoot. So as we know, the command return preview of an animation is far more accurate than just hitting the play button here inside of the program. So let's say that we notice we're having trouble with one of our fade-ins towards the end, and we're tired of doing command return and having to wait 14 seconds for it to get there. So let's say the point in the animation that we want to jump to is 14 seconds in. All we have to do is remember what number that is, which is frame 280. And we're going to make this button temporarily jump to frame 280. Okay, so what we want to do is get back to that button, and we want to be able to select it. So I'm going to click here. That's going to have my button selected. I'm going to go up to Window. I'm going to go to Code Snippets. And I know that I want to write for ActionScript. So I'm going to click the caret here to drop this down. And what I want to do is a timeline navigation. I want it to move along this timeline or jump ahead in the timeline to a certain point. So I'm going to click here. And I'm going to pick the one that seems to make the most sense, which is go to, let's see, go to a frame and play right here. So I'll double click on that. And what it's telling me here is that I have to name the instance of my button so that the program will talk to it. It's going to do that for me if I click OK, but let's not be sloppy. Let's do it the right way. So I'm going to click cancel. I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to click here. I'm going to go over to properties, and you can see that every symbol allows you to give it an instance name. So just like before when we clicked on shapes and we looked over here and it told us it was a shape, in this case we click on the object in question, it tells us that it's a button, and it says right here is where you could give it an instance name. So I'm going to call this jump underscore BTN. And notice that that's a different name than the name we gave it in the library. And that doesn't matter because the key thing is with symbols you can have multiple instances of them. So I could bring out a whole bunch of these buttons, give them all different instance names. All right, so now that this is named, we're going to go back and we're going to repeat those steps, which is clicking on the button, going up to Window, going to Code Snippets, getting into Timeline Navigation from Action Scripts, and go to a frame and play. Now what it did was it opened up the Actions panel and it put in a bunch of stuff here. Just so you know, everything that's between these two symbols is just ignored by the code. And I'll take you through briefly what's happening here. I know this is not a coding class, but some people get really interested in this. So this is the name we gave the button instance. Now what it's telling it in code here is that it is waiting for an event. It's listening for an event. And that event is a mouse event, and that mouse event is a click. So in other words, that button is waiting to be clicked. When it's clicked, it's going to run this function right here. And so here is the function, and here's that same name again. And it's not returning anything, so that's why it says void here. But then here is what is the whole meat of this function. It is a go to and play command. And right now, they just put in for us 5 as an example. But we're going to change that to 280. And now we're going to hit Command Return. And here is our animation. It's playing, but as soon as we click on this button, it should jump to frame 280. And that's exactly what it did. And no matter where it is in the animation, when we click on it, it'll jump to frame 280. Even if we go up to our controls and we rewind all the way back to the beginning and we hit it quicker this time, it's going to jump to that frame. So as you can see, that'd be a huge help for troubleshooting. Now all you have to know to change this button as you're working on this project is that you just need to go into the Actions panel. And here's how I normally do it. I'll go over to Actions, to the frame where the action occurred, which by the way, you can see that now there is something on our action layer. It's in the first frame, and there's this little A that occurs here, and that lets us know that there's an action there. The program was smart enough to know that we clicked on an item and that we had an actions layer and that it wrote the actions in there for us. But now if we want to change it, let's say that we want that jump button to take us, let's say somewhere near the very end, like frame 340. So all you do, get back to your action, and you're just going to right-click and select Actions. That takes you back into the panel, and then you just, in our case, we're just going to make a simple change. And then you want to close this up, and then do your Command Return, give it a try, and you'll see that indeed it jumps right to the very end of the animation, and now it's just looping back to the beginning. Later on, we'll turn this into just a simple play button, but for now, you have it there at your disposal to help you jump to and troubleshoot.